Every year, hundreds of young people travel the country and disappear. God help those who get caught in the tourist trap. Tourist trap, where beautiful young people looking for excitement are tricked, terrorized, trapped.
Let go!
Tourist trap. Shock you can see. Terror you can feel. Heart-stopping suspense that makes this the nightmare that never ends. Something crazy's going on at the tourist trap.
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, on podcast services by searching They Call This Movie, and find us on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. Welcome to They Call This Movie. This is Anthony Del Vecchio. With me, as always, is Dan Aquino and Mark Myers. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, friends.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to October. This is my favorite time of the year on the podcast. Not because I'm not as big of a fan of horror movies as these two are, but that's what I love. Is that every year my love has grown as they've exposed me to more and more movies in the genre that I would have never watched before. And tonight's movie was one of them. But yeah, I am excited for the next 4 weeks, and Dan here, because this is the time when you guys sort of give me a movie lesson on a genre that I probably would never really search out on my own.
Consider us your horror movie Sherpas.
Hell yeah.
On this journey up the horror mountain.
Mark, what is like your of the movies that we've watched that you hadn't seen before? What is like your favorite horror movie that we've forced you to watch?
I love the word forced. 100%. I was literally talking to a coworker about this today with Sleepaway Camp.
Sleepaway Camp.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of the ones I had not seen before, or had. I'll put it this way better. One that I had no awareness of. Like, we'll say the ones that are like in a series. Like, there's probably been a better Jason if I think about it, or something, or one of the Freddy's, or or Halloween or something that we watched. That would be better. But of a movie I had no concept of before you brought it up, Sleepaway Camp, 100%. Me and my coworker Lou spent 10 minutes out of nowhere just talking about. I told him about what movie we watched today, and somehow that spilled into Sleepaway Camp. We just started talking about it. So yeah, that 100%.
I think the beauty of horror movies is that you could talk to a fellow horror movie lover and say, "Oh, one of my favorites is Sleepaway Camp," and like you don't get judged for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that these movies hold their own kind of value. Whereas like if you went to a movie aficionado, like, oh, my favorite movie is Avengers Infinity War, then they'd be like, oh, okay, well, good for you. Well, yeah, I guess you're still on that level, but you're not.
I'm sorry, Mr. Scorsese.
Right.
I mean, they're kind of right though to criticize you.
Yeah. If you're not a teenager, or you know what I mean, it's like one of those things where people will stick their nose up at you. But if you go to a horror fan, like, oh, I like Sleepaway Camp, or you could go to the complete opposite as, oh, I love The Thing, or I love Halloween. All of those hold a certain place for horror fans, where it's like, oh, yeah, I love that movie. So that's one of the reasons why I enjoy horror, the genre, so much.
Yeah, I 100% have a 2 and 3 to that question. And
Sure.
And 2 is Reanimator.
Great movie.
Excellent.
And then I'm deciding between Frankenhooker
Another
or
great one.
what is it, Massacre on Mustache Mountain or something like that?
Oh, Mountaintop Motel Massacre.
That's it.
Ooh, that's a throwback.
Yeah.
That might be
I
like
couldn't decide
Murder
between
Weekend.
those two. Yeah.
might be like
And
a decade ago.
Yeah.
That's the old show.
That was still locked in the memory banks here. And talking about my favorite from a genre movie is obviously one we've basically made our patron saint, which is Halloween 3: Season of the Witch.
Halloween 3.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mountaintop Motel Massacre. I would be interested to revisit that one day. Because I think that's an episode lost to time. I don't know if I have a copy of that.
You should kind of figure out. I don't know if we could, if you lost it, and just see when like the 10-year anniversary of that is.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm curious.
That's something I would love to do, like a commentary on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it does exist on the Internet Archive. It's over 10 years old. It is October 23rd, 2013.
Wow. Man, talk about dating us.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That was...
None of us were even 30 yet.
Yeah.
I gotta go fucking hang myself now.
Yeah, that was... I think we recorded that in my parents' in like the extra bedroom in my parents' house, right? Like right before we went out to a club.
No, you're thinking of the old show.
Oh yeah.
Even preceded that.
Yeah.
Was that Tales from the Hood?
No. That was our first attempt at a podcast when we were just talking about, and you have it reversed.
Okay.
I think we talked about that trip to the club on the podcast. You're talking about the time we dressed up as dorky as we possibly could and went to where that fucking club was.
I couldn't even remember the name of the club, but no one else was dressed up.
Yeah, that was 2009, 2010. It was before I met my wife, Lynn, who is now about to pop with my child.
Your spawn.
Things have changed.
Yes, things have changed is what I'm saying. And speaking of things changing, you guys are going to hear a slightly different kind of structure of this podcast. As I mentioned, my wife is pregnant and she is imminent popping that kid out. So whenever that happens, I'm going to be away for a few weeks and we're going to come back. I'm going to have this podcast as well as a child. So I really can't spend the amount of time I usually do before we record this podcast of like setting up my notes and stuff like that. So we kind of talked about what was the easiest or the most beneficial thing to get rid of. So we're probably not going to go as deep into the plot anymore. And we'll see how that goes. I think this first and second or however we're going to do it is going to be a little more free flowing and kind of probably fun, less structured, I guess, but we'll still have our third segment and everything like that. But that was just the easiest thing because that was the one thing I took the most time to do preparing for this podcast was to sit down and write my notes, which some weeks it was harder than others. So with a kid on the way, less work is beneficial.
Correct.
Yeah. So maybe one day we Mountaintop Motel Massacre as a freebie for you guys. But this week we did not watch that. We watched another movie, which was my choice. And I picked a movie that I have covered on the old website, themaindamie.com, a movie that I remember very vividly, and just the juxtaposition of the lead actor and the subject matter of this movie. I always think about it, and we'll get into it, but it's the 1979 film Tourist Trap, starring one Chuck Connors and a few sexy teens. So, Tourist Trap from 1979 is directed by David Schmoller? I don't know. He also directed Crawl Space, Puppet Master, The Arrival, Netherworld, Little Monsters, Puppet Master, Blitzkrieg Massacre. Stars Chuck Connors, Jocelyn Jones, John Van Ness, Robin Sherwood, Tanya Roberts, Keith McDermott, and Dawn Jeffrey. IMDb score is 6.0, Rotten Tomato score 40%. I didn't see any box office numbers, but it had a budget of $350,000. So I want to see where you guys are coming from with this. So Dan, where are you coming from with Tourist Trap?
So this is a movie I have not seen before, but I have seen some other people cover it slightly. So I kind of went in not knowing the details about this. At first, I kind of thought it was going to be a horror comedy because the beginning score sounds like it's kind of ripped right out of a comedy. It doesn't sound threatening at all. And then as soon as the beginning scene happened with the mannequins, I was like, oh shit, okay, I know what this is about. I get it. I tend to not lean too heavily into the 70s horror movies as much. That's not really my wheelhouse. Of course, there are horror movies that I enjoy from that time period, but I'm usually more of an 80s guy. So this movie definitely has certain aspects from that time period that I do enjoy, though. It's a very low budget looking movie. It's very schlocky at times. There's some interesting visuals at times, but at the same time, I can't remember a more low energy horror movie that I've ever seen. A lot of lockdown shots. Camera's not really moving a lot. The characters are very forgettable. And no one really sticks out in this movie outside of the killer, who
and probably Molly because she's dressed in white the entire movie. Yeah,
sure, but she's not like there's no charismatic character here.
No, yeah.
The actors don't portray fear very well at times, especially the woman who's wearing, it was either Becky or Eileen, the one who's wearing the blue striped shirt in this movie. She just the scene where she gets attacked by the mannequin, and she just keeps like, oh, and turns towards the door in a very nonchalant way. It's like, oh man, some very very noticeably bad acting.
Yeah,
but like other than that, it's a very quirky movie. I had fun with it because I enjoy these kind of schlocky movies. So overall, I didn't love it, but I still had fun with it.
Okay. Mark, where are you coming from with Tourist Trap?
So the first thing was this is one of the rare times where I don't like look up the cast and all that beforehand or anything. And when the villain of this movie, spoilers a little bit, I guess, because it's revealed halfway through, first pops up on screen, I did a Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen moment and just was like, that's the Rifleman. Oh my God. So just little, so that the people get what I'm talking about. There was a show, I believe in the 60s, called The Rifleman, and they played it a lot on a channel called MeTV. And during the pandemic, my grandma would constantly have MeTV on while I was living and taking care of her. And every day at 3:00, The Rifleman would come on, and it just got burned into my brain because the opening of the thing is just a guy says, "The Rifleman," and a music plays, and then the show starts. So when Chuck Connors showed up, I was like, "Oh my God, it's the Rifleman!" But
you were very excited. You messaged us.
Yeah, it's the Rifleman.
Yeah,
but
it's very Bounty Law. Speaking of DiCaprio and Once Upon a Time, right? Comes in.
Yeah.
The Rifleman, starring Chuck Connors.
Yeah, exactly. It's the opening, and it was amazing. It's the first time I've had that happen in a while, where this random piece of, like, as you jokingly called on the show every once in a while, Aunt Mark lore, was able to pop up, and I could share it with everybody. It was great, and it goes to what you said, and that the juxtaposition between the actor I watched television throughout the pandemic, and the character he plays in this movie was just he was the only actor in this movie, like, at all. And it was like he was just having fun doing things because I think he might have been kind of bored acting around these other people. So he just tried to make it crazier and crazier. I figured out the twist, fairly early, just because things become a trope at this point. Back then, it probably wasn't, but when he's having the conversation as the brother, while painting the doll, I could just see that he was just having a lot of fun doing that crazy dialogue. And I don't know how much of it was back then. It probably was more script than ad lib, but just he had the moment that made me laugh. That was like sort of the Dark Knight line where he's like, "Do you know why I wear this mask?" And because I'm handsome, I'm more handsome than him, and afraid that I was going to take his wife. And it just made me laugh. And then the superpowers that don't really get revealed, why he has them, why he's got telekinesis, which made me laugh in a lot of scenes where he would just look at something and a door would shut, and lock. And those moments were great. All that, the last 10, 15 minutes of the movie were just batshit crazy and great. I love them. Especially when he rips the arm off the guy and reveals that he's a dummy.
Oh, that's a great scene.
I love that scene. It's so good. The one moment that pissed me off in the entire movie, which you shouldn't really get mad at horror movie characters, is the first guy that gets killed and he gets trapped in that room, and that mannequin comes through the window and just opens the window for him, and he does not try to escape out that window. I was like, I know it was probably a mistake, like, in terms of trying to scare the guy, but they gave you an escape route. Like, you can go out that window now. It just, I guess trying to play up the scariness. But yeah, just the whole trope idea of a thing that was off the side of a highway, like road, that sort of the highways took over and dilapidated, so he went kind of crazy there. And just all that was just fantastic. And Chuck Connor's just trying to bring as much gravitas and acting to this movie as possible. That limp was great. And it was so well done. And I love the limited sets. That's my favorite part about these movies. Like, these are the type of horror movies I like, compared to a lot of the jump scare stuff that's out today.
Okay, yeah. As for me, like I mentioned, I watched this for 31 Days of Horror a few years ago. I think 2018. So it's been a bit. The one thing I keep going back to for this movie is I just picture Chuck Connors, seasoned veteran actor, TV cowboy. As a guy, it was a very interesting life that this guy led. He was a tank warfare instructor for the Army during World War II. He played for the Brooklyn Dodgers and the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Celtics, one of 13 people to ever play Major League Professional Baseball and basketball. And then you have him here, and I just picture a scene of him just in his trailer in between scenes is like, all right, I'm dressing up how at this point for this next scene? What mask am I putting on?
Just taking a drag cigarette.
Yeah. And there's like a bottle of Jim Beam of just like, fucking war vet. Chasing around teens with this stupid fucking mask on.
When do we get to the scene where I slightly assault the woman with the mask on?
I wonder if the co-stars knew about this. You know what I mean?
Zero chance.
Right, like, oh, this guy was a war vet, played multiple professional sports. They might have. Some of them might have.
Yeah.
At worst, they probably knew him as the cowboy.
Oh yeah, they'd be like, oh yeah, my dad watched that show. He loves the Rifleman.
Yeah,
Tanya Roberts.
Oh yeah, Tanya Roberts. That '70s show, right?
Yeah, she looks fantastic in this movie.
She does.
She was probably, what, like 23, 24?
She is young, but yeah, she looks incredible in this movie. Who brought Nellie Olson for Little House on the Prairie, though? Because that girl looks so much like her. It's funny, but she's also dressed like she's right off the prairie.
Yeah, that was the whole point, that she's supposed to be like the
virgin. She's the girl that gets away at the end.
Yeah, there was another word I was thinking of. I guess pristine could be a word. Like they wanted her to be an all white, be that look to kind of look like his ideal doll was what
Mhm.
I thought of it as for the casting of it.
Sure.
But yeah, she was so out of place.
Yeah. It's like these two bouncy brunettes, like, oh, let's go skinny dipping. Yay. And then it's just her.
I
Somehow
was,
they convince her to go skinny dipping, but
I was gonna say she has the line like, "We don't even have bathing suits," and then one of the other brunettes like, "So like, I don't think friends talk that way. So who cares? Let's just go anyway."
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's a horror movie staple.
Right, exactly. It's funny that this movie's a PG rating because
Yeah.
it feels like it shouldn't be.
Because there's blood in it. They show
Yeah,
some blood.
there's the line you walk before PG-13.
So from what I
Yeah.
read, PG-13 had yet to be created by the Motion Picture Association.
Yeah. What was it, like Temple of Doom? I think they usually credit as the reason for that.
Interesting. Well, because
Yeah.
what did Spielberg fight him? Like, you can't give this an R rating.
Probably something like that. It's funny
Yeah.
because the director, I was reading the trivia, the director for this movie said that he was surprised that this movie only got a PG because he thought this was going to be an R, and he actually said that it might have hurt its possibility for making any money.
Okay. I don't know if it necessarily necessitated an R rating.
No, but I could see someone being like, "Oh, I made this movie, and it's violent. There's like naked girls, and there's no nudity, obviously, but and then just being like, oh, well, we have this horror movie that is now being marketed as a PG movie, and I could feel like being in 1979, we're like, oh, I'm going to go see that PG horror movie."
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely back in the day, not getting that R rating. But I don't know. I think there's only a couple scenes that I could think of where blood is really shown. Right, the guy gets the pipe through the back, and then it like siphons the blood out.
Yeah, that's a cool scene. I actually like that a lot. That imagery.
Yeah, I was hoping they would show that. Like,
Yeah.
they're as the camera slowly pans down to the pipe sticking out of his back. There's just blood coming out. That, and then I think Eileen getting the knife in the back of the head from the tribal chief.
Yeah, that was funny.
Figure. Yeah, that whole scene made me laugh.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just say all of the mannequins are such bad shots.
Yeah.
You have Custer, you have another like a Union general just taking pot shots at the girl. Can't hit shit.
I felt that was kind of the point. Like they were supposed to more scare you than actually
really?
kill you.
Kill her.
Maybe he was trying to set it up that way, but I meant just I think it's supposed to be sort of like what he shows in the beginning, like when it was an actual museum.
Mm-hmm.
To sort of it's going to miss, obviously. But I love the part that after all that shooting, she runs and does the dumbest, just runs up and like obviously puts her face to the wall and covers up, where that axe just happens to be getting thrown next. That was one of the top 3 worst acting moments in this movie.
There's quite a few.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought again I wanted to kind of go back to the low energy feel of this movie. A lot of dialogue in between things happening, especially at the beginning. There's a lot of talk between Chuck Connors and the teenagers in the cabin, and then there's a lot of just shots when they're in the basement of them not really doing a whole lot, trying to get out, but there's no action involved. Even when some of the girls are running away, it's not. It doesn't feel hectic. You don't feel that sense of dread from the actors. Like the camera is just again in a lockdown position, so you're not getting that vibe from even the camera moving around a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. It's all kind of plotting, and part of that, I think maybe part of the reason is that we know so early of who the killer really is, right?
Sure.
We find out as Chuck Connors is both characters. Surprise. But then we have to go through each character finding that out. So it's like so between the two characters, there's no tension because like Nellie Olson, for example, is with Chuck Connors, but she feels safe with him and she's not afraid of him. But we know it's like, oh, this is him.
Yeah.
So there's like no tension between them two. While we're like, no, bitch, get out of there, something like that.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
exactly.
And they do one of the things that I hate the most in movies where a character escapes only to be recaptured in the next scene.
Yes. Yeah. It's
It-
funny because it happens in this movie. And one of the things in my notes that I have is that this movie is basically Psycho meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
And it happens in Texas Chainsaw Massacre too.
It drives me up a fucking wall.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just padding out the runtime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, there's zero sense of leaving and then just ending up right back where you started.
Yeah.
Figure something else out that's more creative, right?
Yeah.
For the person that's being held hostage, have them do something completely different. But I'm glad you brought that up, Ant, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because Chuck Connor's killer, the way he looks, is definitely giving off a Leatherface vibe.
Yeah.
Right, wearing masks and all these other things. Maybe I missed it, but do they explain the telekinetic powers?
No, I don't think.
No.
I think it's just it's there.
And it's like, don't question it.
Yeah. It's so weird.
It makes them feel good.
Yeah, supposedly it was originally supposed to be the mannequins were haunted in one of the original scripts. Wasn't
Cool.
telekinesis, which I don't know if I like either of them. You know what? I actually just prefer that in my head the telekinesis is just everybody going crazy and it's not actually happening. That's not how it's supposed to be read at all. But to me, it just it makes certain scenes make a little more sense. Like the scene of that guy become like being a normal human being and then all of a sudden turning into the mannequin, right? That scene doesn't make any logical sense. Most of it doesn't make any logical sense, I suppose. But and also that last scene of her driving with all of her friends as mannequins at that point seems like it would be a lot more fun if this is just the end of her going completely insane to me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the last scene does do that a little bit
She's just on like a joyride with her 4 mannequin friends.
Yeah, that's the best part. Is that it literally? I guess I wonder. I don't know if they would have thought this far ahead. If like that shot of her driving was the same, like a similar shot of them driving, like
right,
earlier in the movie.
Looks like the opening driving scene in the Full House opening theme song credits.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I found like funny was the voice they chose for Davy.
Yeah,
he just comes off as kind of whiny. Like, why don't you like me? Which I just thought, 6'5", Chuck Connors, as we mentioned, former athlete,
blue eyes, finance.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, I wonder if they wanted it to be one of those things where like clearly something's wrong with him.
Right.
I don't know. Or maybe it was just his own choice of doing it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's kind of wild, though.
Yeah. Once you find out the twist of the movie, you can see that that's probably how he sounded to the brother. And that's why that's the voice he chooses.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty obvious twist.
Yeah.
I don't remember the first time watching it, how quickly I picked up on it. But I mean, if you've seen Psycho, you know the twist, really.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I had that written in my notes. Like most of the time, slasher movies, they'll throw out a bunch of red herrings, right? Like, oh, like you think this is the killer, you think that's the killer. This movie doesn't try to hide it, really.
Right.
You can pretty much tell right away that Slauson is the killer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one thing is the limp doesn't exist when he is Davy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the one thing.
Yeah.
That's the Kaiser Sose.
Exactly, Kaiser Sose. I like the fact that the Volkswagen thing makes an appearance.
Oh yeah.
There's a kid in high school that had a Volkswagen thing, and I thought that was like the coolest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely, this movie has its perks. Like it has some good things in it.
Yeah.
I like the surrounding. I like some of the set pieces. I do wish we could have seen a little bit more of the process of turning the victims into mannequins.
Yeah, because the one scene we have is actually kind of cool. Like when he starts pouring it on her face, and then you get the realization that all the mannequins are actually people
Yeah.
that have been turned into mannequins, which is kind of cool. I guess it's like a house of wax is similar.
Yep.
But yeah, I thought that was a cool idea. But yeah, getting to see more of that. But again, going back to that one scene where like the guy looks like a walking, talking human being, and then all of a sudden he just starts pulling pieces off of him. I thought was pretty genius. A really well done effect for a movie that is this low budget.
Yeah, like he takes his arm off.
Yeah.
And the next shot, the guy doesn't have. It's the guy, the actor, without an arm. Like it looks pretty seamless.
Yeah.
Do a real good job.
Obviously,
But also,
he twists
also
the head.
yeah. Also, that doesn't make any logical sense.
Not at all.
No.
But it looked cool. So
It looked great. I like it.
Yeah, the rule of cool.
Leeway.
Exactly. Rule of cool.
Yep. Yeah, I think this movie it falls under a cult classic level, maybe like a Phantasm kind of movie.
Mhm.
Like dirt cheap, not many set pieces, right? Because Phantasm, there's only like 2 set pieces.
Yeah.
Same thing for this. There's really just the cabin and the basement and a couple of the rooms within the cabin. You get with the hot spring set piece, but that's only for one part.
Yeah.
But it makes do with those set pieces. I thought kind of it makes a lot out of a little for that.
Sure. I think so. I like how this is like an anti Dwight Eisenhower movie because all of this happened because of the interstate highway system.
Really?
Yeah, that's his whole thing in the beginning of the movie
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
is that business has gone to shit ever since the interstate came through. Not that it's really an anti-Eisenhower movie, but all of the movie can be traced back to the interstate highway system coming in and ruin this guy's business.
That's really funny. I didn't know that as a part of history. So that's pretty cool, though. Again, that's another beauty of horror. A lot of it reflects the time.
Yeah, and that's another similarity to Psycho. Psycho makes mention of highways being built, and now it used to be the place to stop, but after the highway got built, it diverted all traffic from it.
Oh, you're right, because in the beginning of Tourist Trap, he mentions that there used to be so many people that would swim in the hot spring, but now it's just like a couple people every now and then.
Yeah,
good pickup. That's something I just learned today.
Yeah, there you go. Also find it funny, like, as far as we can tell, the reason why all this shit happens is because the fucking kids just can't stay put.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? They can't just mind their fucking business.
Yes, Lawson tells them to stay out of a certain area.
Yeah. All they gotta do is sit there and wait for him to fix things. As far as we know, that nothing would have happened as long as they did that. They gotta go snooping around the house in the back.
That's what teenagers do. They gotta stick their nose in other people's business.
Damn teens.
So are you saying that they got their comeuppance?
They're not completely innocent.
Sure.
I don't know if they deserve to become mannequins. I don't know what the preservation process of that is. I'm assuming mannequins start to smell.
Well, I mean, some of them look pretty good. You might have had them for a while. The famous scene for me is the very beginning where the mannequin laughs. Like the laugh is pulled straight out of like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah.
I remember that from when I was younger, seeing that. I'm like, wow, what the fuck is going on here? But I was hoping, now that like earlier you mentioned that the mannequins were haunted. I kind of wish we saw that movie instead.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I would have liked more. I think it's just, I wish it was just like, oh, none of that actually happened. None of those things were actually happening. People were just crazy. Like, we're seeing it through the eyes of a crazy person. But there are scenes that don't have Chuck Connors in that makes that not possible because we're not seeing it from his perspective. But in my head, that's what's happening.
If this movie were made today, I'm sure we get like a whole backstory about why Slauson is the way he is, and it kind of takes the mystique out of it, Because
good.
I was gonna say I do enjoy not fully understanding why he has telekinetic powers. It's like a Stephen King novel,
right?
someone has telekinetic powers, and it's usually a kid, but for some reason they have telepathy or telekinesis.
Yeah, maybe he's just a really skilled puppeteer like Macaulay Culkin.
That's kind of what I thought. I thought he was a ventriloquist.
Yeah, maybe it's just a very elaborate set of pulleys and strings that he's using.
For some reason, I just got that Macaulay Culkin reference. I was like, is this something I didn't know about Macaulay Culkin, that he's a ventriloquist? The Home Alone reference, obviously.
Yes.
Duh.
Yeah. Who would you think about, like, if you were remaking, who would you cast in like the Slauson role nowadays?
I would cast the actor from I gotta look it up. Don't breathe.
Oh, okay.
Stephen Lang.
Stephen Lang.
Yes, he immediately jumps to mind.
Okay.
He's definitely like a grizzled actor. He can pull that off.
Now the question is, how old was Chuck Connors when this movie?
38 years old. No.
Yeah. But you joke, Mark, but sometimes that's like what it is.
No, I think he's in his 50s or 60s.
He's almost 60. He's 58 in this movie. But like 58 is like, it was like Brad Pitt's 62 or something like that.
My first thought was like he's too big of an actor, but it would have been like that genre. No, not genre, that generation. Like, I was thinking like a George Clooney or like a Brad Pitt, like that level of, but like not so much them, but people that acted during that time, like when they were big stars in their 20s and 30s.
Sure.
Like, I'm trying to think who that would be.
I mean, if he didn't have throat cancer, Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tony Shalhoub. No.
Little Tony Shalhoub, bro.
No.
You know who would be good? That sort of like fringe, popular, known. Matthew Lillard.
I like Matthew Lillard.
Interesting.
He definitely gives off that unpredictable vibe.
Yeah, and he's like popular enough, like Chuck Connors was, but not like a top A list.
The answer is Kurt Russell, actually.
Kurt Russell would be great.
10 years ago. Yeah.
You know what the problem is now? There are no actors that are veterans.
Yeah, we need another war. We need a draft.
Yeah. So if we'll get like Ty Simpkins.
Well, I guess the closest we have is Adam Driver, right?
That's true. He was a Marine, I think.
Yeah. But like Kurt Russell has got a baseball career. Minor league California Angels.
That's true. Yeah.
Kevin Costner,
yeah. He's out making his Western epics that nobody wants to see.
No one sees. I love it.
Turns down an easy payday for film.
I love that he puts it he's sinking all of his money into these projects.
Yeah, that's
for
the
some
Francis
reason
Ford Coppola effect.
I love it. I love it when a person self-sabotages. It's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll ever see Chapter 2 of Horizon and Saga.
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
A lot of boomers waiting on bated breath.
Oh my god, there was supposed to be 4 chapters? Oh, Kevin.
This guy thinks he's James Cameron.
Kevin. Supposedly 3 is currently... I don't know if that's true.
No. So he's shooting all these back-to-back?
I mean, so the first 2, I think, are filmed, done. First one, obviously. Chapter 2 is done, but no one knows if they're ever going to see it.
I watched a half hour of Chapter 1. It's the most boring shit I've ever seen.
I mean, have you sat through Dances with Wolves?
I did. That was pretty boring as well.
Yeah.
There's a theme here.
Yeah, I don't hate Dances with Wolves, but I watched it once and I'm like, I got it. I don't need to see it ever again.
Yeah, we're good here. I watched 30 minutes. I was like, I'm basically reading a book at this point in this movie.
It's like homework.
Yeah, so I'm good. I get it. We're fine here. Thanks very much. Yeah, I do. I like the idea of anything Kurt Russell's in. I will most likely watch.
Yeah.
So and talking about charismatic, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he would have been perfect for it, like 10 years ago.
I think he'd be perfect for it now.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I get because he's like he's much older than Chuck Connors was at the time. But like 1979's 55 years old is like today's 73,
Yeah.
which Kurt Russell is currently.
Yeah, that generation had a lot of miles on them at 50.
They did. Well, I mean, he had 4 careers before becoming an actor.
Yeah, it's very true.
He
Obviously,
probably did all his own stunts on the Rifleman.
people didn't obviously take
Rifleman.
as good a care of themselves as they do now as
Yeah.
well. So
Smoked, probably drank.
Yeah, a lot of Jim Beam and Marlboro.
Yeah.
that's you got sick, you just drank it away.
Yep.
Like I got a broken leg. That's fine. Just I'm good. They're a lot tougher than we are today, but at the same time, they looked every bit of their age at that point.
Mm-hmm. Ridden hard, put away wet.
Exactly. I do think I think if you also were to remake this today, you probably get like Jenna Ortega is in this movie.
She's in everything, yeah.
She's in
everything
everything.
horror related. What's Jenna Ortega doing?
Right. Yeah, let's get her involved. I don't know. I think the one thing that would bother me about it today, like I was saying, that you learn everything there is to learn about the Slauson character, and it's like I don't want that. I don't necessarily need that.
Like the Rob Zombie, Michael Myers.
Exactly.
He's got feelings.
Right. Oh, he grew up in a broken home. I don't give a shit. I don't need to see that. It's so much better when your killer is just evil and he has this. He just wants to do this stuff.
Gonna have a flashback of when Slauson realizes he has telekinesis.
Right. Like, oh, he was a part of a government experiment. Or
if you bring this back to X-Men, I swear to God.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, like oh, there's something in the water, caused him to gain these powers, or he's part of a government experiment.
He's an Alex Mack.
Sure. Yeah, he's an Alex Mack. I'm just saying, I don't need to know how Slauson got these powers,
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, and this is what we're going to call final thoughts. This is, I guess, we're going to replace plot. But Dan, do you have any final thoughts on Tourist Trap?
Yeah, so like we kind of talked about throughout, was this movie definitely low budget, as you've heard, only $350,000. So it has its charm. Again, a very low energy horror movie. So if you haven't seen this and you're going into it kind of blind like I was, don't expect a lot of jump scares. Don't expect a lot of your traditional horror elements per se. There's just the actors don't really bring that charisma. They don't bring that energy to a horror movie that you're kind of used to nowadays. But at the same time, that charm of not knowing too much about the killer until the very end, and like what's going on, and seeing all the mannequins, and is kind of creepy at times. But I would only recommend this to die-hard horror fans. Like if you're a casual horror fan, it's probably not going to be for you. But if you enjoy just schlock horror, I would recommend this.
Okay, Mark, what about you?
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Yeah. So this falls into the genre that is very much up my alley during this time of year, in the sense that low budget, practical effects, just weird concept. A lot of I'm definitely more into the slasher flick than the psychological movies. Give me some stuff to try some comedy. And as Dan said, it's very much like more of like a run of the mill of this type of movie. It's not one that I'll think to revisit often or be part of a marathon or anything. But it is one that I'm glad to have on my list of movies I've seen, and it just gives you an idea of all the crazy stuff that was being produced in this genre in the mid to late 70s, before they found the commercial success with like Freddy and Friday the 13th. So overall, pretty average one of these movies, but definitely not one you like need to avoid or should never watch.
Okay. As for me, yeah. If you want to see Chuck Connors run around in masks and wigs This is the movie for you. Let's coin the term Hicksploitation, because this, with
There you
Texas
go.
Chainsaw Massacre, Motel Hell, Mountaintop Motel Massacre, probably. Yeah, just a little look at these crazy people in Appalachia do their thing, I suppose. No, I mean, I enjoyed this movie. I think it could be a little bloodier.
Sure.
Probably that's not something that I really critiqued before in this episode, but I think there is a lack of blood, and I feel like if it makes the first death scene stick out, not necessarily a bad thing, but it almost feels like it's like the cold open this is the scene you shoot in order to get funding for the rest of the movie, essentially. But I do like Chuck Connors being in this movie. It makes me laugh. Tanya Roberts looking fine as hell. And yeah, Psycho meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a little bit of House of Wax, or a lot of House of Wax. And if that sounds like a movie you want to spend some time with, surely this is the only one of its kind. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. Before we do, Dan, what do you got for us?
All right, guys. Please go check out a couple friends of the podcast. First, the Top 10 with Tia. If you've been listening to us for a while, you've probably heard we've had Tia on a few episodes. She's an awesome person. She has her own podcast called The Top 10 with Tia, where she and her co-host Brittany run down their top 10 list. So if that's something you are interested in, please go over to geekvibesnation.com, search The Top 10 with Tia. It'll pop right up. And last but not least, our very own Mark Myers has his own podcast called the Game Vault Podcast. So if you are into video games, video game news, Mark's got you covered. He streams over on Twitch at Game Vault Pod. He's also on all socials at Game Vault Pod. And it is a bi-weekly podcast. You can find it on any platform of your choice, where Mark talks about games that he's playing, games that you should be checking out, things that are on the horizon that you should pay attention to. And he also plays old school games. So if you enjoy that, like I do, that's the place for you. So again, Game Vault Pod on Twitch and all socials.
Okay, great. And you're going to take a quick break, and you guys are going to listen to messages from friends of the podcast. So we will be right back. And welcome back. Now it's time for our final segment. And this week we're doing a tier list. And this week we're doing Halloween candies. So we have a whole bunch of candies here. You guys can see this. I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, sir.
And we have S tier, A, B, C, D, F, and X, which is never had it. So S is goated, as it says. F says, how dare you?
I like how A is yummers. That's what
Yummers.
Yummers.
A millennial definitely did this list.
For sure.
All right, so Mark, let's start with you. Where are you going?
S tier immediately Reese Cups.
We said this last week, Mark. Not until you say it
I
right.
did it on purpose.
You don't get it. Dan, you want to start us off?
All right. Well, I talked about it last week. S tier, Three Musketeers bar.
All right. See that, Mark? You said it properly.
I talked about it so much. The next day, I went out and got a jumbo-sized Musketeer bar. I had to have it.
It's pretty good. All right. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to take these Necco wafers, and I'm putting them down, and how dare you?
Can't remember the last time I
Agreed.
had a wafer.
Yeah. Well, how often do you like eating chalk?
Never.
Exactly.
I think maybe when my grandparents were alive, I might have had it. Maybe. It's been a long time.
Right. All right. Mark, where are you going?
Give me S tier Reese's Cups.
There we go, Mark. It's not Reese Witherspoon.
Okay, can we go behind the curtain here? I literally sat there through your whole thing trying to make sure I could say it correctly in my head.
You went onto YouTube and find how do you pronounce Reese?
No. I kept sitting here going, Reese's Cups.
All right. Dan, what about you?
Let's fill out the middle here. I'm gonna go Milky Way. I'm gonna give it a C tier.
Interesting. What's your
Might be a hot take.
reasoning?
Too much caramel.
Interesting.
Too sweet for me.
Too sweet.
Sweet.
Yeah, too much.
Halloween candy we're talking about here.
The caramel, it get like gunks up my teeth, and I'm sitting there. I don't like it. No, sir. But it's still tasty. It tastes good, but just a little too much for me.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna go D tier, and I'm gonna go these Haribo gold bears, gummy bears, D tier.
Yeah, you're not great.
There are better gummy candies out there than gummy bears.
Worms.
Worms, 100% better.
Mm-hmm.
There's even gummy stuff on this list that's better.
Mm.
Um,
All right, Mark.
yeah. So I'm gonna go F. How dare you to quarters.
Yep.
If we're talking Halloween candy, if someone gave me money, which in any other situation would be great,
Yeah.
I would say, "How dare you?" As an adult that lives in an apartment building that has washer dryers that require quarters, it would be the greatest thing ever to get in my Halloween bag now.
Sure.
But as a kid, how dare you? I would turn into Mindy
Ailing?
yeah, Kaling, character from The Office. First off, how dare you?
Okay.
All right, Dan.
All right. I gotta get a yummers in there. Give me yummers. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna go crunch bars. Yummers.
Okay.
Love me a good crunch bar.
Yeah.
I
think
feel
that's
like
pretty solid.
I could eat those just like by the bag full.
Yeah. You know what? I've been hanging out at the bottom of this list, so I'm going to go with an S tier. S tier Snickers. No
Yeah.
question about it.
Yeah. It's
It
definitely
improves on what the Milky Way tried to do.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
probably one of the rare candies that is just as good, frozen.
Yeah. And it's a great ice cream bar too.
Yeah, Sneakers ice cream bar. Yeah.
Yep.
That
All
goes
right.
on the Mount Rushmore for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mark.
Yeah, so I'm sticking in the A B tier. We'll go B, and this might just be a personal thing. And the only reason it's B is because it depends on the flavor. Give me B tier Airheads.
Okay.
Sure. I agree with that.
Yeah, you could get an amazing S tier Airhead, or you can get a D grade Airhead depending on the flavor.
Okay. Now, follow-up question, Mark. What's an S tier flavor and what's a D tier flavor to you?
I don't really like the orange flavor. And I like any of the if there's a berry flavored or like a cherry strawberry, sort
I
of
agree. Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Good call.
Okay. All right, Dan.
Just real quick, I want to piggyback off of the Airheads thing. I love that it's a B tier because to eat an Airhead, you have to be in the mood to eat an Airhead.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like everything else on that list, it's like you could just have whenever.
Mm-hmm.
But the Airheads, like you have to go out of your way to have an Airhead. All right, so I haven't gotten the how dare you. Give me the orange and black wrapped candy. Because that's put zero thought into the candy you're gonna give out this Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
You just went, fuck it. I'll just grab whatever candy is available at like the CVS. Here's something. Like,
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's only excusable if you're 90 years old.
Sure. Here's a
Right.
40-pound bag of nameless candy for $20.
Yes. Yeah, like I can't be bothered. I'm on death's doorstep as it is. Just be happy I'm giving out candy at all. But if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, do better. Get name brand candy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Where am I going to go? I'm going to go B tier. I'm going to go Dum Dums.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They fall
Dum
into the
Dums.
same category as Airheads for me. Depends on the flavor.
That's
So
true.
Dum Dums are not like, it's never going to make your Halloween, right? It's not going to be like, oh, man, I got the good Dum Dums. I got the cherry or the strawberry flavored Dum Dums, watermelon Dum Dum.
Yeah.
But it's solid. It's there for you. And you're like, oh, I want something quick and sweet, something that's not gonna take me all day to eat, like a Blow Pop or a Tootsie Pop, right?
Yeah.
And a Dum Dum. If I wanted to, I could probably just bite into it as soon as I got it, and it'll be done. But quality variety too. You got the root beer flavor.
Yeah.
I like
Crazy.
the mystery flavor.
Mystery flavor is interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, what about you?
I'm gonna go to another one of my favorites, which we can have a debate on if one in this category, but give me Swedish Fish in the S tier.
Whoa.
I don't disagree.
Oh, really?
I am a fan of Swedish Fish. I don't associate it with Halloween. Like I don't think I've ever gotten a small bag of Swedish Fish in my Halloween bag, but I wouldn't say no to it.
I'm actually going to contradict myself here because I hand out Swedish Fish on Halloween. But I'm contradicting myself because I hate Swedish Fish.
Oh man, I love Swedish Fish.
Oh, that's so good.
I hand out vegan Halloween stuff.
Oh yeah, is Swedish Fish vegan?
They are, yes, along with Sour Patch Kids.
Oh,
it's
also great.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I picked that in particular is because I didn't know if we would count my version of Sour Patch. That would be my definite S tier.
Is that the watermelons?
The watermelons.
Those are good. I like those.
Yeah. I literally, Jen, it may be in like our chat or something. Jen might have a photo of me when I bought a 5-pound bag of it during the pandemic.
Yes, and this house has since had several bags of 5 pounds Sour Patch watermelons, especially in the past 9 months.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I probably revealed to Lynn how to get them. But yeah, I've on a random fact with this, I actually drove past the candy store that sour watermelon bag came from because they were located in Pittsburgh when I was out there. They were closed, unfortunately, at the time. But yeah, I saw an ad for it. I was like, wait, no, that can't be. It was like Crazy Joe's candy or something. It was like the bag I found on Amazon.
Nice.
It's the weirdest coincidence.
All right, Dan.
All right, we got to knock out one of these mints. We have a lot of mints on the list still. So give me York peppermint patties. I'm gonna go B tier.
Okay.
Because they're good, but sometimes they're a little bit too minty, I think. But it's still they're solid.
Sure. I'm gonna go D tier, and I'm gonna go apple.
Yeah.
I can't say how dare you, but it's also unwelcomed because also they're not giving you the good apples. They're gonna give you a Red Delicious, and everyone knows Red Delicious are mealy and trash.
Wow, you don't like Red Delicious?
Absolutely not. It does not live up to the name. You know, give me a Granny Smith.
False advertising.
Exactly. Absolutely. Just the texture of a Red Delicious leaves a lot of wanting in my life.
A lot to be desired.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
All right, Mark, what about you?
Maybe controversial, but D tier Raisinets.
D tier Raisinets. I probably wouldn't put them there, but you do you. I wouldn't put them much higher. It's not my go-to.
Yeah.
I like a good chocolate covered raisin every now and then, but I wouldn't go higher than C.
Yeah,
I think you associate them with movie theaters. That's the thing.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just the reason they're probably high D, low C for me, but just what the C category says, I don't know anybody you'd be able to trade them with.
Sure.
At least a Milky Way, you might be able to find someone to trade something good for a Milky Way.
All right, Dan.
All right. Let's go. Let's get a Yummers in there. I'm going to go. Oh, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to go with How Dare You. Heath bars.
Okay.
Yeah,
that is another old man.
They're next to the Good and Plenty.
That's an old man's candy bar.
I don't even know if I've ever actually had a Heath bar.
When I hear the word Heath, I think of old people.
Sure.
Like, what is it? It's toffee, essentially, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's old people food. I don't want that. Get that shit out of here.
Get that out of here.
Get out of here. I also don't think I've ever been given a Heath bar at Halloween.
All right. You know what? Let's see. Can I fill up a C? Can I find a good C tier?
I think I had a good.
You know what? I'm going to say a C tier is Whoppers.
It's not bad.
Chocolate and malt. Malt kind of is like a little grating on the teeth. Not really great texture-wise, but not untasty.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the first time I had Whoppers, I was surprised, and not in a good way.
Yeah. If you don't know what you're in for, it could be a little off-putting.
Yeah. But I won't say no to them. If they're like someone like at work will bring in leftover candy
Mhm.
and Whoppers are there, I'll fuck around with it a little bit.
Yeah. It comes in the nice package of just 3. Nice
Yeah.
little pick me up.
Yeah, pop them right out.
Pop them right out. All right, Mark.
We were thinking in the same wavelength for C, because I was going to go with Milk Duds.
Milk Duds.
Sure.
Yeah, that's probably a good C. I like Milk
Yes.
Duds, but they are a lot of work.
For the same reason as the Whoppers.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's something you'll just like the Milky Way, you will find a sicko to trade you something we have listed in A and S here
Hmm.
for that candy.
Yeah, I'd trade all my Whoppers for like Three Musketeers.
Like you
Yeah.
will find somebody.
All right, Dan.
All right, Yummers, Baby Ruth,
Okay.
solid candy bar.
Oh, yep.
I don't really have much more to say about it, but it's just good. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
And you prefer the chocolate on the peanuts.
I
correct?
do. Yeah, not like Payday.
Yeah.
Payday, I need the chocolate.
Yeah, Payday's just nuts, right? And
Yeah,
and nougat.
and nougat. Yeah, not terrible.
No,
but
it's pretty good.
That chocolate.
Yeah. All right, I'm going S tier this time. Peanut M&Ms.
Oh yeah,
Those are good.
that is the S tier of M&Ms.
Mm-hmm. Everything else second place when it comes to M&Ms.
Yeah. Regular M&Ms might be not. It's gonna be my pick, but regular M&Ms would be a Yummers.
These are the peanut butter
The milk
M&Ms
chocolate.
are up here. Yeah. All right, Mark, where are you?
Just because I want to acknowledge that it is on this list, let's do F tier toothbrushes.
Okay. Yeah. Someone's a wise guy putting that in your bag, or a dentist.
The dentist.
Exactly. That. Yep. Exactly. I was.
Although, no, the dentist should be given out like king sized.
Oh yeah, because he wants the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Here's these foot long butterfingers. Kids go nuts.
Yeah.
Yes,
That is definitely. It's the last thing on it. I mean, there's probably a couple other F tier stuff if we were arguing, but it's the last thing that falls into like that category of that jokes are always made about for candy.
Mhm.
Everything's given out outside of candy. I think the only thing missing here is people that do with the razor blade stuff being at its height. The ones that would do like popcorn in like a Halloween bag, like sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I always
Yeah.
hate that.
Yeah, like people that do loose stuff like that, which parents are like, "Oh, it's not sealed."
Mhm. Like the popcorn ball, and now your entire
Popcorn ball.
Halloween bag smells like popcorn.
Exactly.
I like that stale popcorn.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's not on here, so that's why I had to make sure we acknowledge the final absolute F tier
Okay.
Yeah.
on here.
Dan, go.
All right. S tier. I'm going Butterfinger.
Can't disagree.
Yeah. Great marketing in the 90s, and nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger.
Mhm.
With you.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna go unsung hero on this one. I'm gonna go B tier. Not not going too crazy. I'm going B tier crackle.
A crackle. Yeah. It's basically another crunch
It's a-
bar. It's a lesser crunch bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's probably essentially the Hershey's version of Crunch Bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. It took me a while until I got older to enjoy a good crackle out of the variety bag
Mhm.
of Hershey's candies.
All right.
I don't think it's specified here, so I'll just talk about it before I make my pick. Of that, it took me until I was an adult to realize that the special dark ones are probably the best ones in that bag.
I like special.
Yeah. So,
Get your mind out of the gutter there. I know where you're going.
All right.
yeah. Wait, lost. So I'm gonna put this one B tier, but it could go a little below, and it's more of a personal choice than anything. You guys might even go lower. Give me a B tier runts.
I'd go lower.
I don't really have I don't have an opinion on runts, to be honest. They're fine.
Yeah, it's one of the only candies I used to absolutely put a quarter in the machine to get loose, like to
Sure.
pour into my hand. So like I said, it's a personal choice. I wouldn't argue against a C tier, but
I'll
It's
put it
B.
in B for you. My opinion is hard candies, they can only be so good. That you're already behind when you're like, oh, let's make this candy and let's make it impossible to enjoy.
Yeah.
Great.
But they're also kind of necessary. You need that change in like texture every now and then.
I suppose. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
And,
sticking by my
and-
complaint.
And I'm
Nothing
also
wrong
a true runt sicko in that I love the banana ones
Ooh.
the best.
I don't think on the planet there is an art worse than artificial banana flavor.
It's
I
up.
love it.
It's crazy.
I will speak my truth.
So apparently, banana flavor is closer to what bananas used to taste like before something happened where we like basically raided the banana republics and stole all the bananas or something like that.
Yeah.
But apparently, in the past, bananas used to taste differently than what we taste today.
Yeah, it's
And
all
it tastes closer to the banana flavoring.
yeah, it's all genetically modified, the bananas nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm glad we rated whatever we had to change
Yeah,
that.
thank Chiquita and all those people.
Oh, yeah. All right, Dan.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I have to do B tier for $100,000 because it's essentially a crackle.
It's a crackle, yeah.
Yeah, but with caramel in it, I think.
I think it's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Caramel, yes.
Yeah, chewy caramel and milk chocolate crispies.
Sounds pretty good. All right. We've been dancing around it, and I'm going to leave. Where are we putting candy corn?
I don't want to be that guy, but it's got to go in the how dare you.
I was gonna say D tier. It fits the description for that.
I was going to say D tier too, because I'll
Cold.
fuck with some candy corn. I'm not going to write in my diary how much this Halloween.
Yeah.
But like, if it's I'm still holding on to Halloween candy 4 months later, it's probably the safest bet. Oh yeah, I'll fuck with some candy corn. I'll line them up, make it look like a corn cob.
The Lewis Black joke is great about candy corn. All the candy corn that's ever been made or ever will be made has already been made in like the 1800s. It just keeps getting passed around.
All right, that was one more round.
Cool.
Mark.
I thought I saw it earlier. Give me A tier Starburst.
Starburst, yeah, I would go with A tier.
I like that.
A little too much trash creation for my taste, but Starbursts are delicious.
Yeah, only reason it's not an S tier. And the things they've created recently have made it way worse if you get a hankering for them.
Mhm.
The ones that are just basically loose, not the Robbery Porter hand, the mini reds or whatever it's called.
Gotcha.
Dangerous.
All right, Dan.
I want to end this on a hot take. I'm
S tier Werther's Original.
No. I do like Werther's Original, but I wouldn't put this on the list. That's a personal choice. I'm gonna say Almond Joy Yummers.
Oof.
I knew it. People do not like coconut, and I love me some coconut.
It's only because my next question would be, where do you put Mounds?
The A tier.
Yuck.
I've always enjoyed coconut, and I fully acknowledge I am in the minority there because my wife eats coconut. Everyone else I know hates coconut.
I like the taste of coconut, but it's a texture thing for me. It's like eating pencil shavings.
I get it. Listen,
Yeah,
I know it's a discrepancy.
Yeah, my only opinion, the reason I bring up Mounds is I would probably put Mounds A, Almond Joy C.
Interesting.
I think
like
the nut.
almond.
I think it's the almond with the coconut flavor just doesn't feel right to me.
Ashes.
If I'm gonna have a coconut chocolate candy, just give me chocolate and coconut.
Sure. I like that little surprise nut in the middle. You don't know where it's gonna be. It could be in the front, it could be in the back.
Could be in the hair.
It could be in the hair, yeah.
All right, I'm going to end on an S tier. And this one does what Starburst does without the cleanup, and that is Skittles. S tier.
Oh, God, I can't have Skittles anymore.
Oh, I have been able to eat Skittles once again after that
horrible
trip
night.
to Boston with Skittle shots.
That fateful night.
We made Marshawn Lynch a friend of the podcast with that choice.
Sure.
Yes. If he wants to come on the podcast, he is more than welcome to.
Talk about Skittles.
Absolutely. He can talk about whatever he wants.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and for And for those wondering, the reason we avoid it, like regular Hershey bars and Kisses, is because apparently they have like 6 different kinds on this list here.
There's a lot.
And it would have been really stupid to go
Mhm.
through those.
Yeah. So that's our list. We got a good mix of stuff. Still a few others that we, could have put Milky Way Caramel Apple Center. Those are pretty good.
Yeah. We had one more F tier that I see. The little strawberry candies.
Are those F tiers? I don't think they are.
I don't know. I put them in the same category as those other unnamed wrap candies.
I would say they're a little bit better. I put them in colorful garbage.
Okay. They make a little more effort.
Mm-hmm. And we also have these variety flavored Tootsie Rolls. We didn't put any Tootsie Rolls on here, did we?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
We avoided the what is it? The sweet tarts.
Yeah.
Any kind of bubble gum.
Yeah. Those could go kick rocks.
Like Fun Dip is on there. That's not a Halloween candy, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, I don't
Jolly
think
Ranchers.
If you really want to be hated by your neighbors,
Yeah,
you put Fun Dip in the kids' Halloween bag.
yeah, that's just a mess.
Mm-hmm. A bit of honey.
Ooh, ooh, ew.
Brother, ooh. I think Airheads, not a great candy. It's more about the experience, right? It's like
Warhead.
it's like
That
the
was
original Hot Chip Challenge.
I was just going to say the same exact
Yeah.
thing. The original one chip challenge
Yeah.
is when Airheads first came out when we were teenagers.
Yeah, you get them for like 10 cents at the corner store.
Yeah,
Back
Oh,
in-
what'd you get?
Back in the late 1900s.
Mhm.
it was either the Warheads or the Jawbreakers.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Again,
so-
hard candy.
Yeah,
Who needs
those
them?
were the ones like wow, he's actually gonna do it.
How many warheads can you put in your mouth at once?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sad part is I probably had just about every candy on this, which is
I'm missing quite a few.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've had most of these.
yeah. But
I
I'm just
was
looking at
once.
this like,
I don't know if I've ever had a chewy lemon head.
no. Like some of that stuff is, but like I think the only candy that I can say absolutely not that I haven't had is probably Bit of Honey. Out of
I've
I
everything
don't know
else.
if I've had them either, yeah.
Yeah,
Hate
even the
Wonders
stuff with
Mints.
yeah, and
That's
a Heath
nice.
bar were probably the only 2 that I have never had. Like I may have had a chewy warhead. I'm not or lemon head. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't think I've had a Mallow cup.
I've
have.
had those.
Yeah, those
They're
are good.
They're fine. Yeah, if you like marshmallow, you're
Yeah,
good.
that's the key thing.
Mm-hmm. I haven't had
It's-
these sour punches
It's
either.
like Reese's cups is if you really like peanut butter,
Mm.
or else you're not going to like it.
All right. Well, that is our episode. Tell us what you think the S tier Halloween candies are. And you could tell us that on all our socials, TikTam Pod on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter. We're also on TikTok at They Call It a Movie. And you can hit us up at on our Gmail. TikTampod@gmail.com is our Gmail. Tell us what your S tier Halloween candy is. Suggest a movie to us. Do whatever you want. But that's our Gmail. Don't send us viruses though. Don't do that. Check us out on YouTube. Just search They Called Us a Movie. Find us there. Find some videos on there for your viewing pleasure. And probably find this podcast too. That's going to wrap us up this week. The director of Tourist Trap was David Schmeller, maybe. So for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, this is Anthony Delvecchio telling David Schmeller, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you? Thanks for listening to They Called Us a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TikTam Pod. That's TCTAM Pod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Called Us a Movie.